Hello, Namaskar viewers. I am Sanjeev Pandya welcoming you to this week's edition of the Business Talk with AJ right here on your favorite TV channel. That's ITV Gold, and happy to have you along with us. This show, The Business Talk, brought to you by Sai CPS Services, a full-fledged accounting firm located in state of New Jersey with multiple locations, but they're only one phone call away, 908-380-6876, or visit their website, saicpsservices.com. What is it all about? It's all about taxes, personal taxes, corporate taxes, or even if you need any guidance on what kind of company that you need to set up, if you just want to start a business, and any other advice you need related to taxes, that's what Sai CPS Services is all about. Their experienced and knowledgeable on-hand CPAs, on-hand, yes, will definitely guide you in the right direction. So do give them a call and make sure that you have your taxes done right. With that note, I'd like to welcome Mr. AJ Kumar of Sai CPS Services to this show, The Business Talk with AJ. Sir, good to have you.
Thank you, Sanjeevji, and thank you for the kind introduction.
You're very welcome. AJ doesn't really look that good at this moment is because he's thinking about Apple shares, to buy it or what to do with it. Because in today's episode, one of the major stories, we've got actually a couple of major stories, good one also, and one from India. But talk about this major story, which is a global business story, is Apple share. Apple share gone down earlier in the week, 2 days in a row, and that basically wiped out $200 billion of Apple's market value. World's #1 company, which is worth $1 trillion, and in 2 days wiped out $200 billion because restrictions from China and Chinese government. AJ, what do you think?
Absolutely. So the Chinese government has decided that their government officials will not be using Apple products, especially the Apple iPhone. Apple's shares, the total market cap has gone down by $200 billion, which is around 2.9%. So that gives you an idea roughly that the company is worth few $1 trillion. 200 billion means 2.9% for them. Is it the right time to be buying the share? But if you take a step back and see for last 2 days, and this is a start, this could be having long-term impact for Apple shares. Just remember, China is the biggest consumer economy for iPhone consumption. Even though Apple does not give the data for the amount of sales they have by country, but Apple has most number of people. I mean, India has probably most number of people, but China has a lot of consumer. If China bans Apple products, that could be disastrous for the company. And where do we end? Is it just the iPhone, or are they going to be banning other Apple products as well? Mm-hmm. So even though 200 billion is 200 billion, but is that so? Or is it going to be further going down?
Yep,
that's what
absolutely. And talk about China, this world's second biggest economy, right?
Absolutely.
They're having their problems, their internal problems. One is the real estate market, which we have talked about.
Absolutely.
And in the past episode, the real estate market is taking a big hit, right? And then threatened demand from everything from commodities to consumer electronics. So they are seeing a big downturn internally. And now with this announcement that they will not use iPhone, obviously Apple relies on China for the major part of their revenue and the growth of the company. And as AJ said, that is more than $1 trillion company. Mm-hmm. Obviously, when you lose $200 billion, that's not peanuts.
That's not 2.9% of the whole company. It's like you have $100 and you lost $3 right there.
Yes. And China is not the only problem Apple is having, right? And this is, has to do with U.S. Treasury yields also in the U.S.
Absolutely. I mean, cost of doing business has increased not just for Apple, all the companies with the current market rate, current prime rate. And Apple heavily depends on China, not just for their sales, not just for their revenue only, but for the supplies as well. A lot of things that goes into your Apple phone are actually built in China. So that being said, if China is going against using Apple iPhone, are they going to be putting more duty on the export of the chips or the products that Apple phone uses? So it can, even though it seems like a small decision right now, and 200 billion is no way small, but it can turn into further problems, bigger problems for the Apple.
Absolutely. Listen, and a US-based Chinese company's stock is also going down. We had briefly covered that a couple of weeks ago, but now here is a major story of the week is that Apple stock. We'll see what happens. By the time you watch this show, there may be up and down or any other news, but right now, as we are within the close timing of the show that you're watching, it is not looking that good. Let's see what happens in the days ahead. We'll let you know. So obviously, when Apple is taking a hit of $200 billion, no one's going to go to Party City and buy any of the party favors or party supplies. The reason I'm talking is that Party City's bankruptcy existence, the exiting out of bankruptcy has been approved by the judge. If you remember, Party City had filed for bankruptcy sometime earlier in January because they are facing a major competition from e-commerce sites, and there are pop-up stores like Spirit Halloween
Absolutely.
and Christmas trees. During this time,
Temporary stores.
temporary stores they come out, but they do good business, and that affects Party City. So Party City is coming out of a bankruptcy. $1.5 billion debt has been approved by the U.S. judge, and now they're going to work on it. Some of the stores going to be open, but about 800 stores going to be closed.
Absolutely. So it's a good thing for Party City. It's a major win. So their reorganization has been approved by the judge. That's a good thing. So there will be a lot of stores that will still remain open. But again, 800 stores means thousands of employees that will probably lose their job. And if you take a step back, Party City is trying to attract the customer where you have the dollar store, Dollar General, Amazon, everybody is selling the party stuff, and a lot of these stores suddenly shows up around Diwali time for the fireworks, around Halloween times. Spirit Halloween is one of them. So
Yes.
that takes a toll on a brick and mortar store like Party City, and that's why they will have to close probably 800 stores that were not making enough money, that were losing money, and all the leases will be renegotiated or will be let go, at least for those stores, and the total cost. The reorganization is supposed to save $1 billion+ for Party City.
Let's see what happens. So now, that's the business news. Now, business news obviously affects economy. And when you talk about economy, obviously, who takes a heat? The number one person in the U.S., and that is President of the United States of America, and Biden is taking a heat because of this, setback news in the world of business and hurting economy. Now, Biden's unpopularity numbers are really growing slowly by steady, right? And Trump's numbers were up, but it slowly came down because of all these indictments that recently had occurred. But Trump is still ahead, leading. Now, this Biden's unpopularity because of weak economy could raise Trump or anyone's chances against the other party.
Absolutely. So the Biden is not doing any favor to himself. His popularity is going down consistently. And there are several factors to it. People see him as a slow president. People see him as an older gentleman. People see him as somebody who does not take strong actions. And you can take it everywhere. The economy is suffering. A lot of decisions that should have been made are not made. And you can relate the whole story with the unpopularity story with the Russian-Ukraine war, with the US sending aid to Ukraine. Look at the economy. Everything is going down. When Trump was president, COVID happened. And millions of dollars were given out to all these businesses. With Biden being the president, the economy is not coming back. And no new money is coming in the market. The market is cash crunched. That's creating a situation where Biden's unpopularity may create a situation for Trump, who already has 91 criminal cases against him, to still win the election.
Yeah, let's see what happens. And of course, even though Biden is trying best, but here's one event which could occur by next week around September 15th. And Biden is trying to avert that strike, but he may not be able to stop it. And I'm talking about auto union strike. This is scheduled to happen on September 15th. If that strike occurs, there could be a loss of up to $5 billion from economy.
Absolutely, and that will be a big impact not on the economy but on his popularity as well. And just remember, this is an auto lobbying, auto union. So President Biden does not have any direct influence on them. President Biden cannot say don't go on strike. He can only request. He can only listen to their demands and see if both parties come to an agreement. But if the strike happens, it does not help Mr. President to win the election either. It
Yep.
goes against his whole popularity scheme.
And if this happens, then it's going to be, a really big one. Just to give you a little more info, there are about 145,000 UAW, which stands for United Auto Workers Union. They are members, and they're across General Motors, Ford, and the other companies that makes vehicles for the U.S. market under the Jeep, Ram, Dodge, and the Chrysler names. All right.
Absolutely.
The union rank and file overwhelmingly approved strikes starting September 15th against any of the companies that does not have a tentative labor deal in place by then. Now, recently, AJ, I just want to add one thing, that we saw a strike by UPS workers, and then the UPS management had to increase their wage, and
Yep.
so on and so forth. So now, if this happens, a 10-day strike against these three major automakers who really started to do well recently and started to make profit, now it's going to be hurting them.
Absolutely, and we are talking about billions of dollars going out of the economy, and this doesn't end there. Last week we had another story where 1 billion, not million, $1 billion of additional grant was issued to Ukraine.
Yes.
So now we know Ukraine-Russia war is going forever, and these two countries, and none of them is saint. You hear the stories on both sides. Now, why does US, who is already suffering, the economy is going down, the interest rate is going up, why do America has to come out of the way and say $1 billion here, and another promise to give another $1 billion?
Well, I think it's because of their pride, and the U.S. is keep giving money. Recently, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken visited Ukraine. It was unannounced visit, and he traveled, from Europe to Ukraine as a normal citizen. By train, he traveled, and with him, what did he carry? $1 billion package. To
I
help
bet if
Ukraine.
Trump was the president, it wouldn't have happened.
Yes, absolutely. I always say that if Trump was, or that's why Putin waited to see that what would be the result of 2020 election. And once it's realized that Trump did not win it, that's when Putin tried to do this. And of course, President Joe Biden is really trying to have real control on the NATO, which is Putin disagreeing to it. And Joe Biden and European allies wanted to make Ukraine as part of their NATO union. But Putin didn't want to do it, and that's where we are. And I think we are in major, major, major trouble. But, let's see what happens. All right. With that note, it's time for a short break. And when we come back in the second half, we're going to have some interesting stories for you. You're watching The Business Talk with AJ on ITV Gold. Welcome back to the second half of the Business Talk with AJ. As I mentioned to you earlier, the show is brought to you by Sai CPS Services. Remember, when it comes to taxes, remember the name Sai CPS Services for your personal or corporate taxes. Whether you are a small business owner, whether you are having a job, whether you are a mid-sized, large-sized business owner, to do your taxes right, Sai CPS Services. And without a further delay, this is the time I want to mention. Next week is the tax deadline, September
Absolutely.
15th.
September 15th is the business tax deadline. If you file an extension for all LLCs, S Corp, next week is the deadline. Don't forget to file your taxes.
That's right. AJ never forgets it, because AJ's business is to remember the business tax deadlines. And that's a September 15th. That's a next Friday. So keep an eye on that. But anyway, for any taxes matter, reach out to them. 908-380-6876, SaiCPSServices.com. All right. Here is a major story. I'm so happy to share this story with you, because obviously, it makes me happy, but also I take a pride in this story, and then how my country, your country, that is doing this. India, organizing G20 meet. So this weekend, as you watch the show, G20 meeting is going on in New Delhi, India. Now, AJ, this has been done at such a large and such a grand scale.
For the first time.
For the first time,
Yep.
of course, and of course, credit goes to Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Absolutely.
The Delhi has been shining, glittering under the lights and excitement, and all you see, all these dignitaries and their staff and expensive cars, as AJ mentioned. Everybody is really, really having great time in Delhi. 25 luxury hotels.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
I'm talking very expensive luxury hotels are booked because of this, Prime Minister and Presidents attending G20 meet and their delegation and staff members and everything else. This is happening at a place in Delhi which was built a couple of years ago. It's in like 140 acre. This called Mandap, Bharat Mandap, right? And it's cost of 2,700 crore rupees. 1,000 people can sit together in one large hall. It's a 3-floor mandap, right? And it's just simply amazing. And that's where the world leaders, the G20, greater 20 nations leaders going to get together, and the other countries also going to be participating. But China's Premier Xi Jinping is not going to be attending, and that has made US President Biden and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi a bit upset, because they really wanted to have Chinese Premier over there. But Xi Jinping decided not to attend because he didn't want to get embarrassed, he didn't want to get blamed, and he didn't want to be in a situation where he won't be able to say a word when you have US President and India's Prime Minister side by side.
And the whole world.
Exactly. Well, obviously, but this was going to be because of these two guys, because they were going to put a pressure on Xi Jinping because of his ties with Russia and how he really favors in a way to Putin, and that's why he didn't want to be there. So he's sending his diplomat over there. Joe Biden already arrived in India day before G20 meet. But this is a really, really great news.
It's a great story, and if we understand it right, it's Mr. Biden's first trip.
Yes.
After becoming the president. So in the first half, if you remember, we were covering a lot of things. What Mr. Biden is supposed to do, is not doing, is not happening. So amid all these economic pressures, you have the US president for the first time going to India to attend the G20 summit, when the country, the big country, is not attending it. So it gives a lot of credibility to the Indian government, to the people who are organizing it, that we have big leaders coming to India to attend a G20 summit for the first time in India. It's amazing.
And France's Premier Macron is already favoring India. They have a great ties. Rishi Sunak, after becoming Prime Minister of UK, attending G20 meet for the first time, and that too in India, which is he's his Indian origin. So he's there, and he proudly says that we're going to continue to develop our relations and make it stronger between India and the UK. So all in all, this is a good sign. Now, what develops, what comes out after G20 meet, that remains to be seen.
Absolutely.
But this is really great
It will
news.
have long-term impact on Indian economy.
Yes.
It's a lot of these things you don't really see the decisions immediately. It's not something that you meet today and sign up today. It's one of those things, the teams, not just the president, the finance team, everybody is meeting with each other, and the decisions and the results you see in months or years after.
Bilkul. So a Chinese premier not attending. Russia's, of course, President Vladimir Putin also had said that he will not be attending. But that's okay, that expected, because Russia is currently in a war against Ukraine. But, India importing Russian oil, which is a win-win situation for both the countries, right? And it's working out very well. The payments are made in Indian rupees, and India is getting oil, and, it's not really burdening so much.
It's not just the oil, it's setting the right precedent.
Yeah.
So Russia has been supplying oils, supplying energy to China, and they have had great relationship. Now, China's economy is suffering. India is coming up as a major world player. Now, India is trying to outsource the energy from Russia. It creates a new length. It creates a new milestone in the relationship that India will have with Russia. And they're planning to sign a larger contract where Russia can supply the oil for next 10 years. And if that happens, that will be a good thing.
Absolutely. So that is a good thing. Also, just want to add one more thing when it comes to G20. There's going to be talks on MDB reforms. MDB stands for multilateral development banks, and they're also going to discuss something related to cryptocurrency.
Absolutely. So the way it works, when you have G20 summit, it's not just the presidents of all these countries that are coming to India or to the hosting country. They bring their full team. They have their finance chief, their minister of finance, their Reserve Bank chairman will be there. So when the presidents are having their meeting, the finance chiefs will have their own meeting to see how the World Bank should be monetized, who the World Bank can give loan to, what the standards the World Bank should be following, what can we do about cryptocurrency, how do we avoid tax mishaps, avoiding the tax situations by using the cryptocurrency, what standards all the countries should be following. So everybody comes out, share their thought process, and they try to come up with a standard operating process that all these countries can follow to avoid currency problems, to avoid tax avoidance type of schemes, to make sure everybody is on the level playing field.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to say it in other words, is that the crypto ecosystem, right? This is a worldwide issue. The crypto ecosystem needs comprehensive regulatory and licensing mechanisms for macroeconomic and financial stability, and all the countries, major countries in the world, are facing this issue. So that's why they're going to get together and they're going to try to find a common ground that how cryptocurrencies should be regulated, should be monitored.
Absolutely.
Because this has been one area that the countries' finance ministers and the presidents and prime ministers haven't been able to find a solution to it, and how to regulate this.
It will avoid the money laundering problems. It will avoid the tax avoidance problem. We are trying to create a standard operating process, a common framework as how all these countries should be tackling with the cryptocurrency.
Absolutely. All right. So now, while we're talking while we're talking about India, let's continue to talk about India and now talk about Asia World Cup. Asia World Cup, as you watched the show by now, hopefully maybe you would have watched India-Pakistan game already. This is the second game I'm talking. First game was rained out after India batted 266 runs and Pakistan didn't get a chance to bat. But Pakistan showed really, really good performance in that match. And now Asia Cup continues. Everyone's eyes on India and Pakistan. Let's see what happens. I think they both have huge challenges ahead.
You're right. So, I mean, the first match highlighted was Ishan Kishan, the batting. But in general, if you see, Pakistan's bowling is extremely good.
Yes.
On the other hand, India's batting weighs out. It is very good. They have a lot of batsmen who can.
But the question is,
bat.
when the bowling is really good, especially Shaheen Afridi and Naseem Shah,
which we saw in the first match.
How long Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli and
they did not do well in the first match.
But listen, the India's middle order picked up very well. Ishan Kishan and
Absolutely.
Hardik Pandya picked
Even
up
after
very
losing
well.
4 wickets, they were able to make 266, which is a good score, which is a respectable score.
I think no against Pakistan that's not. I think in Asia Cup or even the World Cup, right? For any team to really make their presence solid, they need to score around 300. And I'm not saying 300 is good enough, above 300, because nowadays,
in the T20 world,
correct,
we live in the time of T20 where 6 runs per over is not a big deal.
Now, because they're all well experienced and well trained. Athletes are well trained, so obviously the bowlers are well trained and a batsman. But challenge is always going to be on a batsman, right? So 300 plus score is definitely must. India's 266 was a mediocre score, and they had dropped so many catches also.
Yes.
I mean, it's against Nepal.
Yep.
Against Nepal, no doubt we won by 10 wickets. But anyway, so let's see what happens at
so
the
what
end
do you say about Ishan Kishan coming or staying for the World Cup and KL Rahul, who is ready to walk in? How do
we'll see what happens.
How do you accommodate that now?
Let's Asia Cup be over, and then we'll evaluate the team's performance and individual performance. We'll take it from there. Okay, here's another good news for all you football lovers, and I'm talking about America's football, NFL, National Football League, starting this weekend, and it's really, really excitement. If you are Giants fan, Sunday night, Dallas Cowboys are playing here in New York against Giants. That's a Sunday night game. And all the excitement for, of course, Aaron Rodgers, now Jets quarterback, and it's a Monday night game, a Jets game. So NFL is starting up, and all the teams are ready to go for the Super Bowl. Let's see who wins it. That's a long shot, but it's going to be exciting because when football season begins,
absolutely,
that means your Sundays are booked. And that's what I look forward to. But anyway, you need to call Science CPS Services to book an appointment for your taxes matter, and do that soon as possible. September is now around here. You need to figure out where to invest, where to park your money in order to save taxes. And
absolutely,
if anybody can do your taxes right, it's a Science CPS Services. What's your last word on that?
Right now you are towards the end of the year, you are tail end of the year, last quarter. This is the time you do the planning. You can't go to the accountant in March and say, how do I save taxes? This is the time you know how much money you will be making for the year. This is the time you have to put the pieces right, invest the money, buy the machinery, do whatever you have to do, but plan now, plan today. You have 3 months to plan before the year end. For a lot of business, walking into the accountant office in March and saying, how do I save taxes, is just too late. So my last word, plan now.
All right, plan it now, and we're going to plan for next week's episode. Until then, I am Sanjeev Pandya, wishing you all happy and tax-free days ahead. See you all next week, same place, same time. AJ, thank you so very much.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right, everybody, so long.